In the brutal podcast system, any jackass with a microphone and internet connection can pose as an expert on any topic under the sun. Fortunately, however, there exists a humble duo of said jackasses who at least aspire to minimize the effects of the current egregious level of aforementioned fake-ass horseshit and those who perpetrate it. This duo attempts this very noble task by allowing you, the listener, to have total unimpeded access to the real minutia of their pathetic everyday lives. This two-member task force is known deep within the podcast world as Zero Front. These are their stories.
Welcome into another edition of Zero Front. It's episode 2 of season 3. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm going to start off with lyrics tonight. The lyrics are as follows. Well, I'm going to push my way through that crowd. I'm going to tear all your walls down. Tear all your walls down. My love will not let you down. My love will not let you down. That's a song called My Love Will Not Let You Down by Bruce Springsteen from his 1998 album called Tracks. I really like that song. He just basically keeps repeating, my love will not let you down. And it's just kind of inspirational. It's like, life is about love and life's about caring and life's about passion. And the idea of someone saying that their love will not let you down is very powerful and it's transcendent. Love will not let you down. My love will not let you down. It's just one of those things. And Bruce Springsteen is one of the best artists of all time. He's one of my favorite artists. I just love that song. So I highly recommend that song, My Love Will Not Let You Down. Like I said, it's one of those things where it's just like if someone tells you their love will not let you down. But the issue is if they are deceitful, if they're if they're sneaky, if they don't have loving ways and they're telling you their love won't let you down, they're trying to manipulate you, that's not good either. So, but I try to view it as a positive, my love will not let you down. So those are the lyrics tonight. And kind of segue to movie reviews. I just saw the new Bruce Springsteen movie last night. It's called Springsteen Deliver Me from Nowhere. And I'll be honest, I'm not saying it was disappointing, but it was just like, they could have made, a whole autobiography about Bruce Springsteen. It really explained his life and how he got famous and more of his popular songs. And the movie focused on just one time period in his life when he was kind of making this album called Nebraska. And it just shows, little glimpses of who he is, but it doesn't really explain who he is as a person. Because it kind of like, I don't know. It kind of like talks about, that he was dating someone and that he was kind of a jerk to the girl. And they showed a little bit about his childhood and kind of, I don't want to give away the whole movie for anyone who's going to see it, but they could have done like, because you only really get one chance to make like a big like autobiographical. I can't even say the word biographical. I don't know. I can't even pronounce I can't even pronounce the words, but just a better biopic about a person, because there's so much more to him, and this movie doesn't really convey or portray Bruce Springsteen in the best light. When they start the movie, it's like he was kind of famous. He had obviously had the Born to Run album, and that kind of like catapulted him. But this movie just kind of takes place over like the course of like a year. It just explains this one album, Nebraska. And I'm not a huge fan of that album. It's not one of my favorite albums. I mean, they have a couple good songs on it. The one main song being Atlantic City. And that's a good song, but Yeah, it was I give the movie a 6.3. It could have been a lot better. I thought it was going to be better than the Bob Dylan movie, like a Rolling Stone, but it probably wasn't better than that movie. Um, it just wasn't, the acting was okay, like Jeremy Allen White, um, Jeremy Strong, uh, you know, it was just what it could have been better. And it was kind of like a letdown, but it's still an okay movie, but it doesn't really, give you a real idea of who Bruce Springsteen is. It just kind of gives you a glimpse into a small part of his life. Um, and it was kind of depressing in some ways. It wasn't really like that uplifting. So yeah, I give it a 6.3. Other movie reviews, I saw this movie called The Smashing Machine with The Rock, about a UFC fighter named Mark Kerr. I scored that movie a 7. I thought it was decent. It could have been better. It could have been a lot better actually. But 7's still a decent score. Then I saw a movie called One Battle After Another with Leonardo DiCaprio, um, and Sean Penn and some other actors. That movie I give a 6.3. Like it's really hyped up and people are saying it's like great, but I thought it was a decent movie, but it's kind of like promoting domestic terrorism in a way. Um, and you know, I don't know. I don't know. It was okay. I thought the music was distracting. They had a lot of like orchestrated music. Um, and it kind of like didn't match up to what was going on the screen. It was kind of distracting. It was like this like loud piano playing and loud different instruments, and it was kind of unnecessary. So I give that movie a 6.3. I saw another movie called Bone Link that was really good. It was kind of like it was about like this couple who rents like an Airbnb and this other people kind of deceive them and like surveillance them and like manipulate them all kind of while hunting them. It was a good horror thriller. Uh, I give it like a 7. Yeah, I guess I'm doing a lot of movie reviews to start the episode. I hope everyone's interested in movies, but most people see these movies when they come out on streaming. I go to the movies. I have a movie subscription, so I see like everything that's in theaters. So um, saw Roofman with Channing Tatum. That was pretty good. It's about a guy who's like kind of like escapes from jail. Then he ends up living in a Toys R Us. Um, and Peter Dinklage is in it. Kirsten Dunst. I give that a 7.3. I thought it was an enjoyable movie. Good Fortune with Aziz Ansari and Seth Rogen and Keanu Reeves. I give that a 7.1. It's about a guardian angel, where this guy has a really shitty life and then he trades lives with someone else. Um, it was cool. It's like the guardian angel thing, and like, but he trades lives with another guy. He trades lives with another guy who's like super rich and has a good life. And then, but the problem is the guy who was super rich and had a great life, he goes to live in like a horrible life, very depressing life. And then they try to figure things out, and there's all these things happen. I don't want like when I do the movie reviews, I just don't want to give too much away in terms of like the plot. But the score should kind of convey it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. In terms of sports, the World Series is happening. The Dodgers versus the Blue Jays. Um, you know, the Dodgers have a high payroll, so a lot of people don't like them because they think they just like spend the most money and get the best players. But they have Shohei Ohtani. He's a great player. He wasn't having a great postseason, but he in one of the deciding game of the NLCS, he hit 3 home runs and also pitched 6 shutout innings. So that was pretty cool. Blue Jays won game one. There's another game tonight because this is being recorded on Saturday, October 25th. Um, but it's cool. Blue Jays, Dodgers. I mean, I'd like to see the Yankees do better, but I thought the bullpen for the Yankees kind of sucks. That was kind of their weakness all year. And Garrett Cole got hurt. So, we didn't have our best pitcher. But yeah, the games we lost to the Blue Jays and they kind of like manhandled us. And the Blue Jays haven't been to the World Series in 32 years, so I guess that was pretty cool, for them, for the city, for getting to the World Series. But they beat Seattle in the ALCS. And Seattle, I don't think Seattle's ever been to or ever, I don't know if they've ever been to a World Series or they never won a World Series, um but Seattle has a decent, core of their team. They had Cal Raleigh as a catcher who might win MVP this year. He had a bunch of home runs, and something crazy happened when Cal Raleigh hit a home run, his 61st home run, and this guy in the crowd had a shirt on that says "Hit Big Dumper, Dump 61 here," and the ball went right to him. It's one of those crazy things where it's like you start to think about like collective consciousness and stuff and things that happen. Um, the guy was wearing a shirt that said "Hit number 61 here," and Cal Raleigh hit the home run. I went right to that guy. You start to think it's like, are we living in a simulation? It's like crazy sometimes the things that happen. Um, but yeah, I'm happy NBA season started. The Knicks are off to a good start. They're 2-0. Um, Mike Brown seems like he's doing a good job kind of spreading the minutes out. He's still giving the majority of the minutes to the starters. But Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns are and OG Anunoby are like the core of the team. But beat the Celtics last night, but the Celtics don't have Tatum this year. So um, who knows? I mean, I think it could be if everyone stays healthy, it could be a good year for the Knicks. We got a shot because Halliburton's out for the Pacers. Um, but speaking of the NBA, there was a big controversy, um, gambling and fixing, kind of manipulating games and results. It looks like the coach of the Blazers, Chauncey Billups, was involved in a poker scandal where they were organizing these poker games, and rich people or people with money were like paying big money to play in these poker games, you know, in the hopes of playing alongside NBA players and professional athletes. But little did they know the mob was involved and they were manipulating the results. They had like crazy glasses where they could see what the cards were. They had hidden cameras where they could see what the cards were. So it was all fixed. They were cheating the people who were playing the game. Um, and Chauncey Billups was involved in it. And it's crazy because the guy's a millionaire. He played the NBA for all those years. And here he is, participating in a scheme with the mob and cheating people out of money. And I also think that he was also involved he was benching, he's a coach of the Blazers. So he was involved with benching some players and manipulating some results of the games. And then Terry Rozier was involved with fixing, props, like, leaving games early and purposely turning the ball over. And the crazy part is the NBA did an investigation, and he they cleared him in the investigation, but it was very clear that he was manipulating results. Like he was like purposely missing shots, purposely turning the ball over, leaving games with injuries. And it just makes you think about gambling. I think there's a bigger story. I think there's more people involved because I watch a lot of, sports, and I see a lot of weird things happen. And it's like, who knows if it's all directly tied to the mob. But also these big betting companies like DraftKings and FanDuel, because there's a lot of money on the line. So, they could promise people cash and money, and they can manipulate results. So you got to be careful out there. Um, so it's just, it makes you skeptical, and it makes you think about, these guys are already millionaires. Why are they doing this? Why are they costing the small people, the people who are just betting on games and trying to win some extra money? Um, why are they why are they costing people money, and why are they manipulating results? But as I'm talking, I hear it sounds like fireworks or gunshots outside. I'm not sure who would be setting off fireworks in late October, but it's one of the things about doing the show, at my house. It's like, you're dealing with stuff that goes on around the neighborhood and stuff and different noises and everything. So it's just the life of a small time podcast. But yeah, a lot of other things have been going on. I don't want to get too political, but I think it's absolutely insane that Donald Trump knocked down the East Ballroom or the East Wing of the White House to build the expensive, extraordinary. I don't mean extraordinary in a good way, by the way, but a ballroom. It's like, what? Why do you need a big ballroom? Like, what the hell is the point? And the White House is so sacred. Like, why are you knocking down? And you could say other presidents, had renovations and demolitions and projects. Like, people claim that Obama built a basketball court, but when Obama built the basketball court, I don't think that he was knocking down like entire wings of the White House to do that. So it's just kind of crazy, but it's just one of those things where it's like, is it taxpayers' money or going towards knocking down parts of the White House and building ballrooms? Um, and it's still one of those things. I still want to know if Trump's really on the Epstein list, because it seems like the government's just trying to distract people from the fact that the president of the United States might have been involved with, having sex with underage girls and being involved with this creep, Jeffrey Epstein. And people will say, well, how come when he was running for president, how come they didn't try to release the files then to hurt his campaign? It's like, I don't know, but sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. And, they keep making these big announcements to distract, but his supporters and stuff will just say, "Oh, he's not on the Epstein list. It's all Democratic hoax and a liberal hoax." But it's one of those things where, um, who knows, And someone made a joke, about the ballroom, naming the new ballroom the Epstein Ballroom. So I thought that was kind of funny. But I don't want to get too political because I really try to stay in the center politically, and try to get not caught up on, both sides, one side or the other. I have different issues that I believe in, but, um, I do kind of find it fascinating the people who are so loyal to Trump and think he's like this great guy. Um, you know, it's just one of those things where, um, I don't know. It's just, it gets frustrating. Um, but I do want those Epstein files released. I would like to see, who exactly, was involved in that whole thing and if there's going to be justice. It seems like certain people are just so protected and they get away with all this shit. And, it's like, it's just, uh, it's just frustrating sometimes that certain people in certain positions of power, get away with certain things and, they don't face any consequences. So, but, and then, even Trump said he was going to try to, control that's the thing about, fascism. They try to control what you can say. They try to control what you can do. And, he said he was going to go after the late night host. Colbert got canceled. They're claiming that it was a financial thing, that the show was losing money, but I think there's more to it with, the CBS affiliates and the, bigger companies. I can't think of the names now, but, and then Jimmy Kimmel got pulled off the air for a little bit. Um, and, the FCC commissioner, Brendan Carr, said, um, was talking about all this stuff. And I don't know, it seems like everyone's trying to please Trump right now. And, Jimmy Kimmel got pulled off the air, but there's money involved. There's like, Nexstar and Sinclair are two big companies. And, he got put back on the air but it was still one of those things. It's like, are we really trying to control speech? Are you really that upset that, some late night hosts are like talking, some politics and talking out against the president? Because the whole thing is every president, all late night shows have always talked about whoever is the president. It's one of the things they talk about with current events. And, you know, it's just one of those things where I'm happy Jimmy Kimmel's back in the air, but it was also very sad to see, um, certain political levers and strings being pulled behind the scenes and trying to scare people. Because I don't think Jimmy Kimmel said anything that controversial. So, I mean, I enjoy the late night TV. I do wish it was more, comedy that didn't involve politics. Like, yeah, do a little bit of politics, but don't talk about it too much. And it seems like a lot of these shows, almost the entire monologue is focused on politics, which, if I had a late night show, I wouldn't be doing that. I wouldn't, I'd spend a couple minutes on a couple little jokes and, poke some fun at certain people. But, um, it just seems like, um, certain, I'm still hearing like the fireworks and the gunshots outside. I'm not sure what's going on, but, it's kind of distracting, but yeah, it's, like I said, I don't want to get too political. I've realized that both sides, the Democrats and Republicans, have very, a lot of corrupt people and a lot of bullshit goes on. There's another thing that Trump did is he pardoned George Santos, and George Santos basically conned his way into getting into politics. I think he was a senator or a congressman, and he told all these lies. And he cost people money, and just you basically got a job in politics representing the people by lying. Um, he claimed to be Jewish, but he wasn't really Jewish. Um, he said he had four employees in a nightclub shooting, but they weren't actually in the shooting. Um, he he was involved in a rescue puppy scam, people with bad checks. Um, he said he was a star volleyball player at a college he never attended. He said he was a musical producer. He's one of the produced Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. So it's all these crazy things, and then, he was serving his time in prison and then Trump pardoned him. I just don't like the fact that anybody who kisses Trump's ass seems to benefit politically and seems to like their careers seem to get better and better just by kissing the ring. That's not the way things should be. And some people will say, okay, when Biden was president, he was doing all these things, but it's not really, it's not nearly as much as Trump has done. Um, I don't know. I don't want to get too crazy politically because I'm just doing a podcast, and next thing you know, I'll be put on a list, and you know what I mean? My career can be affected. It's just free speech. It's one of those things. If you see bullshit and you comment on it, you're welcome to comment on it. But like I said, I try to stay in the center politically. Um, and I don't like all the stuff that's going on with ICE either. You could say, oh, the people who have been here illegally for years, now they're just getting, they're getting the justice that they got here illegally. So now they're being deported. And I have no problem with, securing the borders and, having people come here legally. But the people who quote unquote came here illegally, they started families, they started whole lives, and they have, these ICE agents, ripping these families apart. If they go after the criminals, if they go after these violent criminals and the people who are illegally are causing more crime, that's fine. But it's when you go after people with families who haven't committed any crimes, you could say, oh, well, they got here illegally, so they committed a crime. But imagine being in another country and imagine just trying to get to a better life. And yeah, you might get here, quote unquote, illegally, but once you get here, you contribute to the country in a positive way. And I do believe that, people, even illegal immigrants, they do pay taxes. So I don't, people say, oh, they're not paying taxes. Well, I think that's not true. They are paying taxes. Every time you buy a product from the store, you're paying some sales tax. And I do believe that they do file taxes. So I just don't like families being ripped apart and all this, it's like, are we just lucky that we're Americans, that we happen to be born here? And we're quote unquote legal citizens, because it's like empathy is about putting yourself in other shoes and seeing their perspective. Um, and there's this whole war, like, oh, they're illegal aliens. Like you're literally classifying them as like you think you're better than them. Um, and it's crazy. It's like, yeah, you want to get rid of the criminals and deport them and all that stuff. I get that, but it's one of those things where it's like, you know, um, just let people, you want to close up the borders now and secure the borders and make sure people don't come here illegally, fine. But the people who already came here, just leave them alone and let them live their lives. And, there's not like an overpopulation problem. It's not like they're taking money out of your pockets. Like, because you say, oh, well, my tax dollars are going towards their health care and this and that. And it's not necessarily true. Um, so, but yeah, I don't want to talk about too many serious topics or get too political, but some things are just really frustrating. It's like, you know, some people just think that they're better than other people. Like I don't think I'm better than anyone else just because I was born in America and then I'm a citizen here. Like, then all of a sudden I'm going to, view other people who are trying to create a better life and come to this country, to create a better life, that I'm better than them, because they're illegal aliens and I'm not. Like, so somehow like I'm superior to them. I think that's a horrible attitude to have. But anyway, um, talk about some other things. Um, I saw the clearinghouse, the people who won those clearinghouse contests where they get like $1,000 per week for life or $2,000 per week for life, or clearinghouse went bankrupt apparently. So the people who are getting those payments and relying on that money, the money stopped coming in. I always wondered too. I'm like, how are like they even financing that? Like, where's clearinghouse getting their money to like pay those people? But I'd be really upset if I won one of those contests and then I'm getting money for life and then, I don't have to work, or I don't have to, have a certain job to make a certain amount of money because I'm getting this payment from a contest that I won. And then all of a sudden the payments stop. Um, so that's kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm trying to work on not saying, and you know what I mean so much. Cause I notice when I'm listening to some of these episodes, do some quality control. I'm like saying, and you know what I mean. Um, and I say a lot, but Obama was one of the best speakers ever. And Obama said, and a lot, but I'm not comparing myself to Obama, but I'm just saying like, it's not crazy. Just, normal pattern of speech is to say, and you know what I mean. But I feel like I'm just saying it way too much. Um, I just did it again, but, um, yeah, I saw some, crazy stories about, this woman moved to a new apartment and her neighbors didn't want her there anymore. So they started filing false complaints about her to get her evicted. Um, and I just think about some of the scumbag people in this world, like person moves to a new apartment, they're not doing anything wrong. They're not, they're not being too noisy. They're not, there's not too much of a smell of like marijuana and various things, and they're not partying constantly and keeping people up. And these people who live there just, I guess, because they want the apartment for themselves. I'm trying to think what the mindset is. Like, try to get someone evicted because for some people are just straight up evil when you actually think about it. They just do things that are unexplainable. So I feel bad for this poor woman, you know, who just wanted to, live in her apartment and just to exist. And you have these people filing false complaints. I think anybody who files false complaints and tries to mess with someone else's life is absolutely insane. And they're horrible people and karma's coming for them. So then I saw another story about a Texas plumber. He had a company, he had a truck, and I think like someone bought his truck and it got in the hands of ISIS, who ISIS is like a terrorist organization. And the name, like imagine you have a company and like this terrorist organization starts using your truck with your logo on it and label on it. Um, and ISIS was using it. So people started like spam calling his company and like saying, "Oh, you're involved with ISIS and stuff like that. You're horrible." And they're trying to like hurt his company. And all he did was like, I guess if you sell the truck, or you should get rid of the company name of the truck on the truck. But it's just one of those things where it's kind of crazy. It ended up in the hands of terrorists. So that was kind of a crazy story. Um, yeah, a couple new TV shows I've been watching. I just finished a show on HBO called Task. It's about the FBI. There's this guy Tom Pelfrey. Um, he's a great actor. He was also in Ozark, and he did a great job in it. He's actually from a local. He's from a local place from where I grew up. He's from Howell, New Jersey. I grew up in Howell and Freehold, and he became like a very successful actor. But it's a really good show. It's about an FBI and kind of criminals, and the FBI forms a task force to try to stop these criminals. It's just a high quality. HBO makes high quality shows, so I recommend that show. I think there were 7 episodes that just finished, so if you want to binge the show, you can. Um, and then this other show with one of my favorite comedians called Tim Robinson. He does a show I think you should leave on Netflix. He does like really crazy, like funny comedy. It's very like awkward and like goes into human nature and just these things. It's like these intrusive thoughts, and he turns it into comedy. He's got a new show on HBO. It's called The Chair Company. It's about a conspiracy. This guy gets this job and he's doing a presentation, and the chair falls apart and he falls. Everyone, it's an embarrassing moment. Everyone starts laughing at him, and he starts investigating this chair company. And the chair company doesn't like that he's investigating them, so they start threatening him. Um, Highly recommend that show, The Chair Company. I think Tim Robinson's a genius. Um, but yeah, there's some other things going on. There's a good commercial. There's a Capital One commercial with Derek Jeter. It's a really funny commercial. If you see it, like he's doing like this speaking event for these students, and and this other guy is talking about this guy who works for like a bank, is talking, and they want to talk to the guy who works for the bank instead of Derek Jeter. Like you would think they want to ask a professional athlete questions, but they keep asking for this other guy who's just like not a rich and famous celebrity like Jeter. So I thought that was a funny commercial. Um, but yeah, there's a couple of other things like I'm trying to keep my weight in check. I lost a bunch of weight a couple years ago, but um, I still try to go to the gym as much as possible. But it's one of those things is whenever I see a fat person, I get motivated because I'm like, I never want to, and this is not like discriminating against fat people, but I don't want to be fat. And I know what it's like to be fat because I was fat for a couple of years. I had this huge belly and I was out of shape. But whenever I see a fat person, um, I do get motivated. I'm like, I don't want to be in that position, because it affects all your things. It affects heart, cholesterol, lifespan, your appearance. You look like a different person. Like when I was overweight, I looked like a different person. So, whenever I do see overweight people, I do get motivated. I'm like, I do want to stay in shape, but yeah, um, some other stuff is in terms of food. I think better cheddars. Have anyone ever had better cheddars? I think better cheddars are way better than Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its are so overrated. Like Cheez-Its are good, but I would say better cheddars are like just way better. Um, no pun intended. Um, the problem is they come in a smaller box and they're more expensive. But if anyone's looking for good snacks, better cheddars are like really good, but not every supermarket sells them. Um, but I highly recommend better cheddars. I think they're better than Cheez-Its. They're better than Goldfish. Um, Someone was telling me thinking about doing a show, just a small show, and I'm just trying to, doing it as a hobby and maybe it turns into something. But I mean, I realize that I'm an amateur and I realize I'm just a guy talking on a microphone in his house. But the thing about podcasts and stuff, a lot of podcasts, people are already celebrities, like they're already actors or they're already sports stars and they start their own podcasts and they have a built-in audience. So for the little guys like me who are just starting these podcasts and doing these podcasts, gaining an audience is not easy. So I appreciate all the listeners that I do have, and giving my show a chance. It just kind of gets frustrating where it's like, the celebrities are already rich and famous, and then they're starting podcasts, with a built-in audience. And it's like the people like me who are starting podcasts, because they have all the celebrities, they have money behind it. They have professional studios and producers and editors. Like I have none of that. I'm just some guy recording, you know, just on basic Zoom call and then uploading it. You know, it's like really just, and I'm just doing it for the love of the game. I'm not making any money off this show. So it's one of those things where, celebrities and stuff already have, they already have a great career and lots of money, but I guess there's money to be made in the podcasting. So they figure they go into it. And Howard Stern talks about this a lot. Like Howard Stern, he worked his way up. He started off in the radio in small time markets, and then his show got successful, and you know, he got people around him, like Robin and Fred, and the show just got more popular. It started turning into a bigger thing, but he's been doing it for years. And then he sees all these other people who are already celebrities getting into like his broadcast game. And he's like, why are they intruding on my territory? But people are welcome to do whatever they want to do. Like, you know, I mean, I enjoy other podcasts. I listen to mostly when I'm listening to, other shows, I do listen to mostly Howard Stern. And then I listen to, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend because I grew up watching Conan O'Brien. So I enjoy, and then Dan Patrick, sports radio. He's got a show, Dan Patrick show. I enjoy certain things, but um, I just don't have a lot of time to listen to a lot of podcasts. There's a bunch of true crime podcasts and stuff, but um, going off on a tangent here, but um, it's one of those things. But and I also think the thing, not to get back into politics, but I think the thing about Robert Kennedy Jr. and Trump announcing that Tylenol causes autism is absolutely insane. It's just crazy. It's like, and if I was Tylenol, I'd sue the crap out of them. Because what is everyone going to start taking Advil? Because Tylenol, Advil, and aspirin are different. So I just don't get it how they deemed without real scientific data that Tylenol causes autism. It's like it's just absolutely insane. Um, that's the type of stuff where it's like, you know, and just to say something positive, like, I do think it's cool in a way that Trump influenced Israel ceasefire on Palestine. Because he claims he stopped all these wars and stuff. I don't think he's solely responsible for stopping all these wars, but he does do some good things. And if he influenced, the end of the Israel-Palestine conflict, that's good too. So I don't want to all, talk tons of shit about Trump, but some of these things that you see, it's like we're living in the movie Idiocracy, and just, people are just getting dumber and dumber, and crazy things are happening. Like, making crazy statements like "stop taking Tylenol causes autism." It's like really, it's like Tylenol is causing autism. So it's like it's a crazy things like that. But then I saw that those fires in California, it turns out, was started by some guy. He started the fires, so hopefully that guy goes to prison for life. Um, because that people, a lot of people in California lost their homes, and it was a whole thing, and it caused a lot of, the fire. Starting a fire is not a good thing. So I hope there's justice. So and another thing, I've been seeing some social media videos where some people just go to a store and they buy a single piece of rice. Like, you go to the stores and you buy food and they weigh the food and that's how much it costs. Like they buy a single piece of rice or a single noodle, and then the cashier is super confused when that happens. So I think those are pretty clever, funny social media pranks that I've seen. Um, But yeah, I'm gonna try to do another episode soon, sooner than later. This one was over a month, but I'm gonna try to do another one sooner than later. Um, I do like doing the show, and I enjoy it. You know, the staples of the show, like the song lyrics and the movie reviews. And I don't want to get too political, but it's one of those things where people tell me it's like, well, what do you got to pick a lane. You got to do something. Like if I just made the show all political, the show have quicker success, but then I'm alienating part of my audience. Like I hope I didn't alienate, the Trump supporters, but some of the stuff that happens is absolutely absurd and you have to comment on it. Um, if I just do a sports only show, people want to listen to that, but the whole show is a variety show and just talk about a lot of different topics. You know, and try to do what I want to do on the show. I mean, yeah, it was better when I had Joe and he was, we had a conversation going. And I'm thinking about getting guests on the show. I'm working on getting guests. I got to coordinate with them. I got to get, I can't pay them to come on the show because I can't really afford to pay people to come on the show. But, maybe I'll be good at interviewing guests and it'll be more interesting that way. But this is the show for now. And it's just me kind of just talking about, rambling about different topics and talking about different things. And I'm glad for people listening and supporting the show. And like I said, I'm going to try to do more than one episode per month, but I'm always so tired from work. And I'm just like, because my job involves a lot of talking. So I get home and I'm like, oh, I just talked all day. Do I really want to go home and just start talking again? And I'm not getting paid for the show. So it's just like a passion project, So, but I appreciate everyone listening. You could follow on social media, Instagram, Twitter, um, things like that, and tell your friends about the show. And thanks for everyone for listening. And I'll probably do another show, hopefully, by the end of November, maybe a couple of episodes by then. But thanks everyone for listening. It's been another episode of Zero Front. And everyone, hope you have a great week and a great month and a great holidays. Thanks and take care.